Hi everyone, Mrs. Roberts here. I'm really excited to bring you part 2 of our close reading. Um, Today our goal is to continue what we worked on last time, so good readers never read a text just once. But today we're actually going to read a text. So last time you practiced close reading with the video of clouds. Today we are going to work on our close reading with a text. So you'll see on the screen a reminder of what we do when we are experiencing close reading. We read 3 times. First, for key ideas and details. Second, for craft and structure. Third, for synthesis and integration of knowledge and ideas. However, we're going to add a 4th read this time, but it's at the beginning. And instead of any of this, we're going to start with what's called a cold read. In a cold read, you typically just listen as someone reads to you. So I'm going to read the text to you. But you should also have the text with you, whether you printed it or have it on your screen. Either way doesn't matter to me. But what I do want, as I read this text to you, I would like you to circle words that you do not know. So that means either in context you don't know it or you just don't recognize the word, but I would like you to circle words you do not know as I read this text to you for the first time. So you've already got your copy. I've got mine here. I'm just going to read to you, and while I read, circle words you do not know. Water discovered on sunlit part of the moon for the first time, NASA says, by USA Today, 11/2/20. Scientists have discovered water molecules on the sunlit surface of the moon, NASA recently announced. That's a surprise because the side of the moon that's exposed to the sun is hot enough to evaporate water. In recent years, telescopes have detected water ice at the moon's south pole, inside permanently shadowed craters. The moon has poles just like the Earth, the top and bottom parts relative to the sun. The poles do not get much sunlight. They are so cold that frozen water can exist without melting and evaporating. However, this new discovery suggests that water may exist even in the bright sun. Water molecules are made up of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. Casey Hannibal is the leader of research at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, and she says molecules aren't clustered together in ice or puddles. Instead, the molecules are spaced farther apart. They don't know whether these molecules are trapped inside clear glassy rocks. They could also be lying in between grains of moon dust. Sophia studies the solar system. NASA is hoping to build bases on the moon in the future. If there is enough water there, it could possibly be used for drinking. The water molecules could also be split apart, so the oxygen could be used to make rocket fuel. That's still an open question, though. The moon is still very dry. The amount of water in 3 cubic feet, which is about half the size of a bathtub, only equals about a 12-ounce bottle of water. The surface is probably about 100 times as dry as the Sahara Desert. NASA's Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy, otherwise known as SOFIA, made the discovery. SOFIA studies the atmospheres of distant planets and moons. It flies about 99% of the Earth's atmosphere, above 99% of the Earth's atmosphere, which is made up of gases like water. This makes it easier to provide its nearly 9-foot telescope with a clear view of the universe and objects in our solar system. Unlike an ordinary visible light telescope, SOFIA's telescope looks at how objects absorb infrared light. Infrared light is redder and cooler than visible light. It would be hard to see water molecules with visible light. However, water molecules absorb very specific wavelengths of infrared light. When an infrared telescope detects absorption at this wavelength, scientists are pretty sure they've found water molecules. Scientists want to analyze ice samples. Scientists believe this water probably came from many different objects in space that crashed into the moon. These include comets, which are icy, rocky balls that orbit the sun, making gas tails as they pass near the hot sun. Other sources of water could be asteroids, which are chunks of rock, and the collection of dust that swirl around our solar system. Scientists will have a better idea of the sources if we can get down on the surface and analyze samples of the ice, said Paul Hain, a planetary sciences professor at the University of Colorado. Hannibal says they are planning follow-up observations to try to answer the question about how and where the water is distributed. The findings were published on October 26 in a pair of studies in the journal Nature Astronomy. So now that we have read this text for the first time, and you have circled the words that you do not know, we're going to pause here for Ms. Karsten to talk to each of you to share the words that you do not know, and just have a little chat about what words you see and if you're able to figure out what any of them mean. All right, now that you have talked about the vocabulary you noticed in your cold read, we are going to do our first read. So for this first read, you are going to go back and reread. And you are going to answer one question for me, which is a main idea from the text. That question is, in 1 to 2 sentences, summarize how scientists believe the water molecules wound up on the moon. So you're going to go back to your text. You're going to reread. And this time you're going to look for the answer to the question, how did scientists believe the water molecules wound up on the moon? Then once you've found that and completed your reading, you're going to write 1 to 2 sentences to answer that question. Okay, I'm going to have Ms. Karsten pause me here so that you all can read, write, and discuss. Excellent. So you'll probably have noticed that in this the last section here, we talk about where the water molecules could have come from. While the scientists don't know for sure until they get down onto the surface, they believe it could have come from objects crashing into the moon. That includes comets or dust or asteroids. They're not sure yet, but you would have found that answer and hopefully you've written 1 to 2 sentences. Now we will go on to your next read. For this read, you are not going to reread the entire text. You are only going to read this middle section, Sophia Studies the Solar System. As you reread this section, I would like you to think of the answer to this question. What phrase or phrases help you to understand that Sophia's technology is essential to detecting water on the moon? Okay, so again, what phrase or phrases help you to understand that Sophia's technology is essential to detecting water on the moon? Then explain your thinking. So you are going to write about 3 sentences for this. You're going to find a phrase or phrases that help you to understand that Sophia's technology helped to make this discovery. Okay, so again, you only need to read this section to answer that question. Ms. Karsten's going to pause me here so that you can write, read, and discuss. Awesome work. Hopefully you found some good phrases and explained them well. Remember, whenever you give an insight or a thought about a text, you have to be able to explain your thinking. That means writing at least 1 additional sentence to explain what the phrase or phrases means to you and why it helped you understand. Now, for the final read, the entire text is part of what you will work with, so you can reread the entire text. But ultimately, you're going to answer this question for me. Find a sentence from the article that you feel best explains why the discovery of water on the moon is important. Explain your thinking. So you're going to write 4 to 5 sentences for this because I really want you to think about your thinking here. Once you've found the sentence that you feel explains why the discovery of water on the moon is important, I want you to keep talking about why you think that matters. That might mean you connect to another part of the text as well, but I need you to think about why it matters. I can't tell you why it matters to you. I can only tell you why it matters to me. And as the scorer of your writing, I want to hear your thoughts at all times. I'm not in your brain. I don't know what you're thinking. So please make that as clear as possible. So Ms. Carson's going to pause me here again while you reread, you write, and discuss. All right. Hopefully you found or heard a couple different examples of why the water discovery would be so important. There are more than one example in this text about why it's important. There's not a right or a wrong answer. What you've just done is a very small window into writing argumentatively. When we write argumentatively, we typically need to go through a close read so that we're making sure we're understanding the text. But then we are explaining our thoughts and our views with evidence from the text and going into why it matters. We are not necessarily saying it's the only way or the right interpretation versus the wrong interpretation. You're just trying to prove your interpretation, which is why I pushed you to say as much as possible about the sentence you find, because that's where good writing comes from, what you think about what you've read. And the entire close reading process is to get you to think about what you've read and then write about it. There is no purpose most days to read something if you don't write about it. So anytime we read something together, we will be writing about it. Doesn't mean we're writing a giant essay. In fact, we probably won't most times. But those small opportunities of writing is what's going to make you a better writer overall, because it's those small opportunities to practice that contribute to your better writing. Just like these small opportunities of reading will help you to become better readers. So I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit about water on the moon. I know I have. As we go forward in close reading together and we do these video lessons, I would love if you shared via email with me or Ms. Karsten topics you would like to read. So I picked this one because I thought it looked really interesting. Maybe you don't care about space. I don't know. Could be true. So I would love it if you shared some topics that you're interested in so that as we practice close reading, I could find some topics that are of high interest to you. It's very important to me that you're reading things that you're interested in. So if you don't mind sending me an email or talking about it right now to give me some ideas for the future, I would really love that. Thank you so much for all of your hard work today, and I will see you next time.